Father's Day to all the fathers out there.
Happy Father's Day.
So before we start, I'd like to clear a couple things up.
Oh.
First of all,
Oh.
on the bass, let's get this straight right now. Bruce Lett.
Yay!
And on the percussion, you know him, you love him, Oliver Brown. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that on?
It is. It is.
No, it's not on.
It's on.
That's all right, I'll keep going anyway. And our soloist this morning, a dear friend of mine, and one of the reasons he always brings Dana with him, who's a new practitioner.
Yay!
Dana, there she is. Stand up and take a bow. Stand up, there she is. Look at that. Don't bow to me, bow to them. And with her, as always, Michael Paul Smith.
Yay!
So I have to tell you this story really quick. Last Tuesday, I was in Montgomery, Alabama, and I met a man named Anthony Ray Hinton, who spent 30 years on death row in a 5x7 cell. And the EJI, the Equal Justice Initiative in Montgomery, got him out. And he said when he went in, he was convicted wrongly convicted of double murders and put on death row. He said when he went in, and this I thought it was so interesting how it applies to us here. He said he knew he had choices. He could either choose to hate and be angry, or he could choose to have hope and love. 30 years later, he got out. Anthony Ray Hinton.
Very cool. Yay.
All right, let's stand and sing on that note.
Ready to stand and sing.
So you are always that choice. All right. What are we singing, Mary?
It just came in.
I don't think it's on, but we'll go anyway.
It isn't. Okay. All right. There we go. There it is.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Thank you for this day.
Cosmic Mystery of
Oh,
Electronics.
stayed on spirit. Excuse me.
Michael, come on up and help us sing, will you? Come on.
Here's the red mic right over there, Michael. Right there.
Come on.
No. Woke up this morning in my mind. Stayed on spirit.
Woke up this morning with my
Mind's stayed on spirit.
Woke up this morning with my mind. Stay on spirit.
Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Dancing and singing with my mind.
Set on spirit.
My mind was
Woke up this morning with my mind. Set on spirit. Dancing and singing with my mind. Dancing. Set on spirit.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
walking and talking
With my mind.
my mind was
Set on spirit. Well, I'm walking and talking with my mind, and it was set on spirit. I'm walking and talking with my mind, and mine is set on spirit. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
harm. Won't do no harm to keep your mind.
Set on spirit.
Won't do wrong.
Talking with my mind.
Won't do no harm to keep your mind.
Set on spirit.
Won't do no
Talking with my mind. Set on spirit.
Hallelujah.
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 Woke up this morning with my mind.
Set on spirit.
My mind was
Woke up this morning with my mind. Set on spirit. woke up this morning with my mind
Mine was
set on spirit. I said, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
do it again. Do it now. Feels so good. Do it again.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Yeah. Woke up this morning.
Say hi to us.
Very good. Please take that energy and greet your neighbor with love.
Good morning. Good morning, Redondo Beach Center for Spiritual Living. And happy Sunday. We are so blessed to be here. I am so blessed to be here to hear the message of this wonderful center. And I'm one of your trusted board members, so to speak. And it's my wonderful pleasure to stand up here and welcome any of you that are visiting us for the first time. Today we have a fabulous green bag with surprises in it. Anybody here for the first time? Raise your hand. Welcome, young lady in back. This is what? Right. And welcome, Reverend Mama. We have wonderful music. Our musical inspiration today is the boys and Michael Paul. Michael Paul, come on up and sing for us.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Father's Day to all of us who've fathered and been in those roles as a father, and mothers who've been fathers, and fathers who've been fathers, and grandfathers who've been fathers. And does that include everyone yet? Okay. So good to be here with you guys. I love it. I'm driving in from San Diego these days, so I'm living in San Diego now. And so I told Dana my knees need to warm up when I get here. That's the only thing, because I'm sitting for so long. Well, I love you guys. I'm so happy to be here. So. There's a power within, a force that shapes your life. Creation begins with the thoughts in your mind. Realize your truth, open your eyes to see. Your world is made by you. You know you cause it to be. It is done as you believe. It's the word you speak that make it so. It's up to you to plant the seeds. It's the thoughts you think that make it grow. It is done unto you, and it's done unto me. It is done as we believe. Hold the vision of your desires. You don't have to figure out how. Your actions will be inspired. You just have to stay in the now. Your vibration draws it to you. What you focus on expands. Your dreams can all come true. You know the power's in your hand. It is done as you believe. It's the word you speak that make it so. It's up to you to plant the seeds. It's the thoughts you think that make it grow. It is done unto you, and it's done unto me. It is done as we believe. So what do you believe? 'Cause it's done to you. Just seek and you shall find. Ask and you shall receive. You create by the thoughts in your mind. You know it's all as you believe. It is done as you believe. It's the word you speak that make it so. It's up to you to plant the seeds. It's the thoughts you think that make it grow. It is done unto you, and is done unto me. It is done as we believe. What do you believe? 'Cause it's done to you, and it's done to me. What do you believe? Tell me, what do you believe? 'Cause it's done to you, and it's done to me. As we Yes.
Thank you, Michael Paul. And happy Father's Day to everybody that it's appropriate for, and happy Father's Day for those that are making Father feel special. Every father should remember that one day his son will follow his example, not his advice. So no matter who we are, where we live, or what our goals may be, we all have a heritage. And parents always pass to their children a legacy. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, and some of it's a combination of both. And the legacy we've been handed doesn't have to be taken as written in stone. When it comes to our spiritual legacy, it seems to me that those of us that are here haven't mindlessly hung on to our parents' spiritual legacy. We've chosen this teaching because it's one of freedom and independence. And when we adhere to the Science of Mind principles, we're really living a life that can help us with our spiritual legacy. So the question often arises when we do talks like this is, if you were arrested for being a religious scientist, would there be enough evidence presented to convict you? Your spiritual legacy is like a baton that you pass on to the next generation, even while you're living. Your family, your friends, your co-workers, and your neighbours grab this baton and run with it, even after your race is finished. So why not choose to leave a legacy that counts? Here's a question for all of us. What kind of legacy are we leaving on this earth? It's not just for our children or grandchildren if we have them. Our legacy is apparent in how we respond to life's difficulties, how we make a difference in the lives of others, and how we handle disappointments, how we talk about people, how we treat others, and more especially how we treat people that are close to us, especially behind closed doors. What will the record of your life look like? People sometimes think of a legacy as something that wealthy people or people with influence hand over, theologians or the saintly. But it's unfortunate because it's important to remember that each of us has a legacy to pass on. Pericles said, you can have an impact upon others that outlasts your lifespan on this earth. What you leave behind is not what is engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others. And more recently, Stephen Covey wrote, the need to leave a legacy is our spiritual need to have a sense of meaning, purpose, personal congruence, and contribution. We don't need to worry about how if we focus on leading a life of character, conviction, and compassion. Our legacy will never be forgotten. And I love a quote I read recently that said, the true meaning of life is to plant trees under whose shade you do not expect to be able to sit. On this Father's Day, it's good to remember that the children are watching. And with apologies to Liam Neeson, they know what you did. And they're going to do what you showed them. You know, your ethics are shining through everything you do, whether it's how you drive, how you treat other people, and particularly how you treat members of your family. So you could text your dad if it's appropriate and say, I smile because you're my father. And if you can put up with it, you can say, and I laugh because there's nothing you can do about it. The good news is that you can decide to pass on a positive legacy on whether you received one or not. So please repeat these thoughts after me. I choose to live with compassion, love, and conviction. This one's a little longer. My spiritual legacy will be a reflection of how I live my life today. You get the idea, and so it is. So let's all stand for the congregational song.
Ready? 1, 2. You know what to do. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you.
This day, thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day, this holy, this holy, this holy day, this holy, this holy, this holy day. Thank you for my friends, Spirit.
Thank you
for my friends. Thank you for my friends, Spirit. Thank you for my friends, my wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful friends, my wonderful. life, Spirit.
Thank you for
my life.
Thank you for my life,
Spirit. Thank
What
you
about
for
it?
my life. My beautiful, my beautiful, my beautiful life. My beautiful, my beautiful, my beautiful life. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This holy, this holy, this holy day. This holy, this holy, this holy day. Thank you for this day.
One more.
Thank you for this day. Excellent.
All right.
Now we are going to welcome up Eli to share our announcements with us. Yay!
Hi guys. My voice is gone again, but that's just spring for you. You get too excited. Happy Father's Day to everybody, all the grandfathers in here. It's kind of a little bit more applicable. But yeah, in case you guys didn't notice, there was a lot more traffic today. But applaud yourselves for being here every Sunday, not just Father's Day Sunday. And thank you to Marianne and all the volunteers who came out for Operation Sparkle yesterday. The cleaning and polishing makes such a difference in our center, and we appreciate you taking the time to help out. There are 2 birthday cards out in the foyer to send to Noble Smith. His birthday is July 1st. He's in hospice care, and we're sending them early. Please sign one of these for Noble. New Member Sunday is rescheduled for July 1st. We're encouraging all who have become members in the last year through Science of Mind classes to sign up at the counter so you too can be a part of New Member Sunday. Visioning with Dr. Moira is on Mondays at 6 p.m. Men's Spirit Group meets Monday, June 18th at 7 p.m. in the teen room. Shared Bread is a neighborhood program which provides a wonderful full-course sit-down dinner for approximately 125 to 150 people every Wednesday night. The Redondo Beach Center for Spiritual Living provides the dinner entree the second Wednesday of each month. Please join us in sharing our abundance. Marianne Amato is in the foyer collecting for this. Labyrinth Walk is Thursday, June 21st at 5 p.m. in Richelieu Hall. Namaste Cafe is Friday 22nd at 7:30 p.m. in Richelieu Hall. The entertainment includes Jimmy Yamaguchi, Diana Green, Serenity, and backed by popular demand, the Cleopatra's Course belly dancers. Family picnic is Sunday 24th after second service. It will be at Alta Vista Park, and the center will provide fried chicken for you, and you're asked to bring a dish that corresponds to your last name. See the program for details. Tickets are $8 for adults and $3 for children 12 and under. This is another opportunity to get together just for fun. Please join us next Saturday. Damien wants to share more about the picnic.
So I'm very excited about this. This is our annual family picnic. It's right at Alta Vista School, or the park right behind us. You could literally walk. So I'm hoping all of you come. It's a fun day. Tim, raise your hand. Tim helps us with games. Fabulous food. It's $5 for adults. It's $3 for kids under 12. I'd appreciate it on your way out. If you're going to be able to come next week, sign up for your dish. Give me some money. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks.
Drumming Circle is Sunday, June 24th at 12:30 p.m. in the Montessori room. We always have practitioners on duty. Look for them under the practitioner sign in the foyer. We also offer prayer circle after both services. If you would like to be a part of it, please come to the grand piano after the service. Please remain seated for the meditation song.
Our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Be careful what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes our prayer. Our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Take charge of what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes our prayer.
And so, in this moment now, I pause, I center myself, I become aware, conscious, present. I allow myself to be still so that I can know something greater than simply that which I know in the busyment and from the busyment of the embodiment. I allow myself to feel the presence of Spirit within me, around me, about me, above me, and below me. I lean into that presence, and I lean from that presence into that presence. And I allow myself to relax and release and let go of everything unlike it, anything I may have brought into this room today that troubles me in any way. I let it dissipate itself in the light of the presence that I'm in. And I know that when I do, I'm opening up a nucleus that creates a vortex of energy, that creates a space for all good to come into. And I'm available then to my good of health, fullness and plenty, prosperity, richness and loving relationships, and amazing and wondrous creative expression. And I'm allowing myself to know that that is my legacy. That is my entitlement. That is my birthright. And I can richly live it if I'm open and receptive to it. And I am. But to really have access, I must release and let go of all fear, all doubt, all concern, all anxiety. I must allow myself to be that poised, open receptacle to the pouring out of universal cosmic good. All of the time. All of the time. And it is my peace and my poise that keeps the lid of that receptacle open so that I can receive. And I'm ready to receive. I'm ready to allow myself to be saturated in the good of Spirit so that I can send it forth and shower it upon all around and about me, so that I can be as Spirit is the givingness of life back unto itself. For nothing good comes to me that I keep for myself alone, but that I am absolutely delighted to share and eager to share, knowing the opulence of Spirit and its eternal supply. So I bless myself, and I give great deep thanks for all of my blessings, for all of my good. And I am committed to being fearless in sharing that good and sharing my blessings with all. For life is ever abundant, and life's abundance is ever available to me when I know how to access it through the generosity of Spirit. So always and ever may I be open to the true essence of my being, through the divine design that I am and live from it and live a life that is whole and full and prosperous in every way, because I have come to know that I am the givingness of life back unto itself, and that's what brings me my greatest joy. And what I know for myself, I know for every person on this plane, I know it for every living thing. Fullness and plenty, joy, joy, and more joy as each opens up to the abundance of the universe, to the abundance of life, and responds accordingly. I send this forth out into all there is as a blessing, so that each one and everything is open to that divine grace that's available to all. Now, I know already it's being worked upon by the law of life itself, as I say, and so it is.
Our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Take charge of what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes our prayer.
So welcome, my dear ones, into this glorious Sunday, Father's Day, and legacy as well. So to all the fathers here, a very, very wonderful and happy Father's Day, and thank you all for all the wonder and good that exists because of you. And we think especially today of one dear father that many of us know, and that's Noble Smith. Our dear Noble, who's approaching 95 years of age and wants us all to celebrate his 95th birthday with a big cake, is in transition now. He's making his transition, and he's doing it peacefully and quietly, and he's surrounded by a great deal of love, all his family, and we want to keep them close in our hearts at this time, because Noble, as you know, is very, very dear to us all. And he's comfortable with his transition, and he's lived a very noble and wonderful life, and he is off to a big and great adventure now, but please do keep them in your prayers. We had cards out there because we wanted to wish him a happy birthday quickly, because we knew he'd gone into hospice. But even the family is surprised that this is all happening so quickly. And so, happy everything to you on your way, my dear Noble. And so we get to look today at this thing called legacy. Now, a legacy is something we're all very familiar with, as I was sharing this morning. Legacy, we hear it all the time. Indeed, some of us are at the point where we're thinking about our legacies, and if we're not thinking about them, our children are reminding us. And they're telling us, you know, how it's going to be, what they want, and this and that and the other. And provided they're all doing this nicely and cooperatively and lovingly, it's a good thing. And it's something that people are always kind of somewhere at some time thinking about and deciding what that legacy will be. And indeed, the younger ones are very busy putting together what's going to be their legacy when the time comes. But that's a worldly legacy. What we're talking about today is a cosmic legacy. We're talking about, the legacy that is the ultimate, most important legacy that we'll be leaving behind. And that legacy grows up out of the building up of character and the growth of a soul. It's the building up of character and the growth of a soul that creates that kind of legacy that you and I can leave behind when we're no longer interested in remaining here in this plane. And so believe it or not, we had a banking lesson this morning. Not only do we have all of us, most of us anyway, banking accounts in the bank of the world here, whatever it happens to be, and we know exactly what the rules of banking is and what we can do and what we cannot do and so forth. But we're talking about the cosmic bank of In God We Trust, infinite supply and reserves. That's the bank we're talking about now. And just like a regular bank, it does have its process. There's a process in becoming an active member of this bank. Now, in this bank, the difference between this and the worldly bank is we can be an active member in it, or we can be a dormant or a sleeping partner or a sleeping member or a non-active member, whatever you want to call it. We get to choose that. And so just like any bank, you need to have a PIN number, and you need to have an ID, and you need to know the code and so on and so forth. Again, in the cosmic bank of In God We Trust, etc., we have a PIN number, and the PIN number is thought. And we do have a checkbook, and the checkbook is consciousness. And we do have an ID, and the ID is a pure heart or a pure loving heart. Those are the things we need in order to access this opulency that is in this cosmic bank. You see, all of us are members of this bank. All of us are entitled to all of the opulence of this bank, but we too must have that PIN number, that checkbook, and that ID. And that's what accesses the wonders and the glorious opulence of that divine reserve. And so that's what we mean by building up character and growing a soul. This is what gives us the ID and the checkbook and gives us the PIN number. Now, it's up to you and it's up to me with regard to whether or not we want to be active or inactive members. That's a choice you and I will make. And those of us who make the choice of being an active member of this cosmic bank of In God We Trust, infinite supply and reserve, well, we know how to get that access, and we're working on ourselves, and that will be all of us, because that's why we're all here. We're working on ourselves, and the most important thing and talent and gift, or whatever you want to call it, that truly, gets us way on our way, is the gift of faith. Faith is essential here. Faith is essential here. Now, faith is that amazing force, that amazing power that seems to create all kinds of wonderful miracles. Faith is a very natural thing. Fear is a very unnatural thing. Faith is affirmative. Fear is negation. And so we have to move through all of the doubts and the fears and the so on, the hurries and the worries and the fuss and the fretting and all of that, if we're going to be successful at accessing all that divine opulence that's available to us all. And so faith is what takes us home. And when you get into faith and really are one with it, you realize that life is your greatest champion. Life is truly your greatest champion, and that you can depend upon it. And that faith is the shield that shields us from, the slings and arrows of the outer world. And faith is the healing balm that takes care of us when we need to be taken care of in that way. And faith will see us through always. And faith, when we're stalwart and we're standing in it all of the time, especially when the waters are up to here, it really is that which keeps us identified, keeps us with our code, and keeps us with our PIN and so on and so forth, so that we can get through all of whatever it is and go straight to source, go straight to source. So banking is in our DNA. We get to bank every day of our lives. We're banking every single day of our lives. And the way we access that and keep the code familiar so we don't forget our codes, so that we don't forget our identity, so that we don't forget our PIN number, so that we don't lose our spiritual checkbooks. We access all of those things and keep them safe and secure by the coinage of what? Not money. The coinage of acts of kindness, the coinage of good deeds, the coinage of a helping hand, the coinage of lifting up spirits, the coinage of putting smiles on faces, the coinage of a pat on the shoulder, or a helping out wherever help needs to be. Now, when we're growing our characters and growing our souls, we get to be that intuitive intelligence that is able to intuit where there is a need and how we can help meet that need. These are all the ways and means by which you and I access the opulence of life, access it. I don't know whether it's something that we think about very often at all, or if much of any time we think about banking every day into our spiritual banks via this pure heart, via the right use of mind, via the ordering of our thoughts in such a way that we direct them into consciousness along the line of something wonderful and something good, that we're present to them. And that's what keeps us in this state of authenticity, in this pure state of being. It says in the scriptures, create for me a pure heart. Create within me a pure heart and a steadfast spirit. Now that's what faith needs, a steadfast spirit, supporting it all of the time. And you know, as I was thinking, and I haven't thought of this song in a while, but as I was last night, as I was secluded in my room, thinking about today and so on, and just listening to what it was that Spirit had wanted us to hear, the song of a very old song came to mind. And I used to listen to it on the radio as a child, and it always impressed me, even as a child. And it was a tune my mum would hum around as she was going around the business of setting the table or whatever. And it's a song by, and you may know it, it's a song by Irving Berlin. And it goes, I know a millionaire who's burdened down with care, a load is on his mind. He's thinking of the day when he must pass away and leave this world behind. Now, I'm not a millionaire, the person who's telling the story is going on to say. Indeed, I'm very poor, but still, I leave a special will when I must say goodbye. And it goes, I leave the sunshine to the flowers. I leave the springtime to the trees. I leave the old folk with the memory of a baby upon their knees. I leave the nighttime to the dreamers. I leave the songbird to the deaf, to the blind, rather. And then Irving Berlin finishes up through the person speaking, says, I leave the moon above to those in love when I leave this world behind. I leave the moon above to those in love when I leave this world behind. It's a beautiful song. It's a poignant song. And as I say, even as a child, it had an impression upon me. But my goodness, that just wafted through my mind last night when I was thinking in terms of legacy. And so, you know, we may not have all the bazillions and all the rest of it that other people have. Indeed, we may have very little of any of that. But we could be spiritual bazillionaires if we truly understood what real wealth was all about. And if we truly understood our capacity to lavish upon life great wealth and great riches through the way we think, through the way we feel, through the way we behave ourselves, through the way we show up in life. Making the difference, lavishing the coin of kindness and all that comes under that heading. Again, I shared with people this morning that I had the fortunate opportunity to hear a wonderful young man who was sharing his experience of misery, terrible, deep misery when he was 17, 18, and 19, completely in despair, couldn't see anything ahead of him at all, to the point that he wanted to take his life. And he had decided to take his life. And he set out one day to do that. And as he was moving toward the place where he was going to do this, he said, if just one person comes up to me today and asks me if I'm okay or how I'm doing, I won't do it. I just won't do it. If just one person does, on the bus, no one came. On the train, no one came. Walking along to the middle of the bridge, no one seemed to come. This is San Francisco, and you know the bridge. And as he's standing at the rail about to, jump over, a young lady approaches him, a lovely young blonde blue-eyed lady approaches him, and she's smiling, and he says, oh, this is it. She's going to ask me if I'm okay. This is it. I won't have to do this. Well, she comes up to him and she says, I wonder if you take picture, please. He says, oh, I couldn't, really. You're having a bad day, but So he takes the picture, spends about 5 minutes taking pictures for this lady, and then as soon as the lady passes on, he gets on that rail and he lets go. And the moment he lets go, he regrets it and he says, I want to live, I want to live, I want to live. Now he's going 70 miles an hour down into the water, wants to live. He hits the water and he thinks, I'm going to sink, my boots, everything is heavy. And somehow he musters up the last bit of strength he has to hold his breath long enough to come up and break through the waters. And he does. He breaks through the waters. It's a miracle, that in and of itself, while he's still breathing. And then he says, he has no energy left to make it to the shore. And on top of that, to add to his burden, this thing is circling him and circling him and circling him and circling him. And he thinks, oh my God, now I'm going to be eaten by a shark. I can't even do this myself. He's kind of trying to push the thing away. And then he's coming in and out of consciousness, and he's bobbing in and out of consciousness, bobbing in and out of consciousness. And eventually he finds himself on land, on shore. And he's no idea how he got there. But anyway, in the hospital, and children are coming. He broke his back, but he didn't paralyze himself. He did break his back, but he didn't paralyze himself. He was very fortunate. And some children are there, and they come in and they talk to him and say, well, why are you here? And he tells them, they said, well, you've got to come to school and tell us all about that. And then the priest, when he comes in to see him, says, young man, you have a story and you need to tell that. You need to share that with the high schoolers and the young college kids. And he says, no, I'm not going to do that. And so after everybody's gone, the father says, that's exactly what you're going to do. You are going to tell this story, and who knows, you might just save one life in the process. So he's out there now in the world, and he's a great motivational speaker, and that's his work. He goes all over the place telling people his story. But as he's getting known, one person gets in touch with him and says, you know what? I was on the far side of the bank when you jumped, and I saw everything that happened. And it was not a shark that circled you. It was a sea lion, and that sea lion got under you and bobbed you to the shore. And that's how you got to shore. And he was so struck by that, so awed by that, so changed by that, so impressed by all of that, that's what really committed him to telling his story. And of course, now the sea lion is Herbert, his favorite friend. Now, who knows where the sea lion is now? No one knows, but that's his very, very special friend, Herbert. His legacy is going to be phenomenal. The lives he's going to help and the lives he's going to change will be phenomenal. Phenomenal. He knows what his legacy is when he leaves this world. His cosmic legacy. Do we? Do we know the story? Do we know the story? Have we got that same capacity to think in terms of, I leave the sunshine to the flowers, etc.? You see, no one is poor because it's true, as the song says, the best things in life are free. The best things in life are free. What are the most important and valuable things in life? It is the love and the friendship we share amongst ourselves. It is the people in our lives who make a difference, who are there for us, who care for us. And that young man said, you know, the one thing I want to leave with every single person is this. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're in the dire straits of wanting to take your own life or not, but if you're in any kind of a bind, he said, my last words to everybody is always this. If you are in any way in circumstances that are beyond your ken, if you are upset, if you are not knowing how to cope in any way, especially if you are in deep despair, turn to someone, anyone at all, and say 4 words. I need help now. I need help now. We are all so miserable at seeking help when we truly need it, especially when we know there are people we can go to and say, I need help now. And most of us in this room, all of us in this room, have someone or another, or many people we could turn to and say, I need help now, but we don't do it. What is it that prevents us from doing that? Is it just this very, very deep pride in ourselves that we don't want to let anybody know how we're feeling? Is it the fragile ego of us that won't let us turn to somebody and say the strongest 4 words you will ever say? I need help now. We ought to be able to do that with each other. We ought to be able to say that to each other. We need to know that we're available for each other. This is part of our legacy. This is what we've been given. We've been given it all. We have access to everything, but remember what accesses the opulence, all of it, of the divine, are those things, goodness and kindness and care and sharing and understanding and a warm heart and a welcoming spirit and a solid character that doesn't get disturbed or fussed when somebody upsets us, and that we don't take things personally because we're mature enough now to know that when people lash out at us, when people are mean to us, when people despitefully use us, it's because they're in pain of some kind or another. They don't know themselves, they've lost themselves, and they don't know where to find themselves. That's why that happens. And so I am knowing for each and every one of us that as we go through life with all of its tones and textures and colors that will vary all of the time like a kaleidoscope, that when we walk through the shadows, we will always find our way home. We will always find our way home to the heart of ourselves, the inner sanctuary. And be there comfortably, enter in knowingly that I can sit on my wonderful chair in that inner sanctuary, and I can lean my head back on the pillow of the divine, and I can feel that chair as the divine itself supporting me and covering me and absolutely renewing, restoring, refreshing, recovering me. I can know that. And I can know as I meet and mingle and mix with everybody else, the few people who are become master members of the bank, like the Jesus, the Christ conscious one, like Siddhartha, the enlightened Buddha, or like Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers, won't you be my neighbor? We have to be like Mr. Rogers in his invitation, when he sings that beautiful song, Do you know what his beautiful song is? What is it? Can anybody shout out the line? It's you I like, every part of you. And and it's you I like, every part of you, and I hope you will remember when you're feeling blue, it's you I like. It's you I like. I think we could be singing that to ourselves to begin with, so that we can recover ourselves. I think on that little chair in that wonderful state of warmth and welcome, leaning into the divine, we could sing that song. It's you I like, every part of you. And now that I'm not feeling blue, I can sing it out loudly. It's you I like, every part of you. It's you, the great I am. That's what we're coming to. We just need to become Mr. Roger. I think if we could all multiply Mr. Rogers in this world, we would all have a wonderful world to live in. And the generosity of spirit is phenomenal. It is awesome. It is phenomenal. It is awesome. Generosity always reaps the reward. Like I was reminded in the notes I read that were given to us as directives for this week, which much of us certainly read but not use much of, but this one was a story about the beautiful elderly old lady who was a stalwart member of a church, and she was poised and always wonderful and always the essence of that which is good-mannered and so on. The minister announced from the pulpit saying, he said, if anybody can place $1,000 into the collection plate today, they can get to choose 3 hymns if they would like for next Sunday. I mean, hymns were big in this church. Hymns, it was all what it was about. And so, anyway, he was delighted to see that in the plate there was $1,000. He said, I'd love to thank the person who placed this money in the plate. Please stand. And this lovely old lady marched up, poised as ever. She came up and he said, oh, we're so grateful to you. We are truly grateful to you. And now you get to choose your 3 hymns. And so she just looked around all of the congregants. And she said, hymn and hymn and hymn. Generosity is always rewarded. So, my dear ones, I tell you, I kid you not, that was what was recommended for sharing today. And so I did what was recommended. And the levity of that, is a wonderful thing. The generosity of spirit and the generosity of heart will always keep a smile on our face. It will always keep us buoyant. It will always keep us wanting to share more and more and more of the opulence and the abundance that is available to us. But remember how we access it. We access it through thought, through consciousness, and through a pure, unconditionally loving heart. There is no other way. That is the process to be able to become a fully fledged, active member of this cosmic bank of In God We Trust that has infinite supply, always available to us, to every single one of us, without exception. And so the question is, this week as we go through our week, are we going to ponder what our legacy will be when we do leave this world behind? And can we too feel good, as that song makes the person feeling good whose words are being spoken about leaving so much wealth and wonder behind when we leave this world? Because this is the only bank that will allow you to take your dividends with you. You get to take it all with you, unlike the banks on the plane here at the moment. And God knows many people on this planet would love to see many U-Hauls trailing them as they go forward into the next life, like the Egyptians thought they could take it all with them once upon a time. It doesn't happen that way, but you can bring all the love you give. You can bring all the kindness you have shared. You can bring all the growth and beauty and grace that you've developed in your character as you grew your soul and set it free to go forward and do what you're here to do. you. Allow God to be God by means of you, because you can. And remember to sing to yourself always and to everybody you meet in your heart, it's you I like. Every part of you. And when you're feeling blue especially, remember, it's you I like, and I really do, and so it is. Aren't we blessed? We're so blessed. And remember, let's try. Are you all on for this, fathers especially, and mothers too? Can we all try to be Mr. Rogers this week? Could we all try that? Because the world would be a better place if we do. Let's try it. Let's try it. Now the good Reverend is coming forward to share with us something.
I am facing a really big challenge and have been for a while. I am making progress, but it has been so slow. Recently, I realized that I was feeling discouraged and disappointed and frustrated. I was feeling this first thing in the morning. So I finally woke up and realized what I was doing, and I knew that I needed to change and I needed help. I called my practitioner. I needed to be reminded of the progress I am making, and that spending time feeling sorry for myself is not helping me at all and is actually hurting me. I feel so much better now, and I'm waking up feeling better, and I know that my progress continues until I am finished with my challenge. I am so grateful to know that I can always get the help I need.
If you're listening in, remember, it's you I like. Every part of you, and we're all singing this to you. It's you I like, especially when you're feeling blue. Remember that. And in the words of that young man, don't ever hesitate to say, I need help now. And please let us all practice that one too. And when we do have the honor of somebody saying that to us, let us be available and present, and I know we will. So let's take our gift between our amazing hands, and mine is on my desk, and say, divine love consecrates my gift. It goes forth to heal, to bless, and to prosper all those who give and all those who receive. I rejoice in the sharing of and I release my gift with love. And so it is.
If you believe within your heart, you know that no one can change the path that you must go. Believe what you feel and know you're right, because the time will come around when you'll say it's yours. Believe there's a reason to be. Believe you can make time stand still, and know that the moment you try, when you believe, in yourself right from the start. Believe in the magic that's there in your heart. Believe all these things, not because I ask you to. Just believe in yourself. When you believe in yourself, just believe in yourself, then all your dreams come true. Believe there's a reason to be. Believe you can make time stand still, and know that the moment you try, when you believe, I know you will believe in yourself right from the start. Believe in the magic that's there in your heart. Believe all these things, not because Michael asked you to. Just believe in yourself. When you believe in yourself, just believe in yourself, and all your dreams come true. Come true for you.
Paul Smith.
The wonderful Michael, who always comes and raises our spirits, and you can see him out there afterwards, and if you so desire, you get to take him home. You get him to take home in the form of a CD. For a moment, somebody was getting a little worried. Well, you know, it's Father's Day, and I'm not going to read all of this, but I'll read some of it because I know the fathers are anxious to get out there and get grilling and so on. But you know what? I looked through all the stuff that's on the websites for Father's Day, and really, I always keep coming back to Irma Bumbeck. I mean, she's the one that really says it better than anyone else, you know. So she says, I remember Papa. When I was a kid, a father was like the light in the refrigerator. Every house had one, but nobody knew what either of them did once the door was shut. My dad left the house every morning and always seemed glad to see everyone at night. He was the only one in the house who wasn't afraid to go down to the basement alone. When he cut himself, and he often did, shaving, no one kissed his wounds or got very excited about it. When anyone was sick, he always was the one who went and got the prescriptions. When I got a bike, he ran alongside of me for at least 1,000 miles until I got the hang of it. I was afraid of everyone else's father, but not my own. Once I made him tea with only sugary water, but he sat in a small chair and he said it was delicious. Whenever I played house, the mother doll had a lot to do. I never knew, however, what to do with the daddy doll. So I had him say, I'm going off to work now, and then I threw him under the bed. When I was 9 years old, my father didn't get up one morning to go to work. He went to the hospital and he died the next day. I went to my room and I felt under my bed for the daddy doll. And when I found him, I dusted him off and I put him on my bed. Here's to you, Noble. He never did anything I didn't know, however, that his leaving would hurt me so much, and I still don't know why. Daddies, you're adorable. And I'm going to have these. I know you're all eager to get off, but we do have Daddy Day cards, a little card for dads to put in their pockets so that they can remind themselves of how highly we regard them. And if any mother is taking the role of a father, or any woman plays the role of a father, then please feel free to come forward and take a card too. I'd love to give you each one and shake your hand, but in respect for you all running off to your grills, etc., I'll just leave the cards here for you to come forward and take yourself. And now, enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and have fun and celebrate your life, because it's the most precious gift you have, and it's unique, and you're the only one of your kind, and you're worthy of celebration and being honored. So do that every day of your life. And we'll dedicate now this prayer for all of those who are in deep, deep, dark despair, so that they may have the courage, the impulse to turn to somebody and say, I need help now. And for all those, especially noble, who are making their transition. I know divine love enfolds me, divine light leads me, divine life lives in me, divine wisdom inspires me, divine compassion expresses through me, and divine power protects me. All that I am is Spirit's life and expression. It is good and very good. With deep joy and generosity filling me, I go forward now in sacred service, supporting a compassionate world that works for all. I move through my days with grace and ease, in peace and love, in health and well-being, in fullness and plenty, and in loving relationship with all. What I now know for myself, with blessing,
I know
for all, there is only God, there is only God, there is only God. And so we'll stand now for our peace song and dedicate it to indeed peace in our world, but first under our own roofs.